Alright, racists, let's talk about you culture vultures. Racist America does not love black culture. It requires it. In the same way a tick requires blood. They are intentionally dependent on black innovation because whiteness has no internal generator. It is a closed circuit of theft and mimicry, constantly rebooting itself on black genius just to feel human for 5 more minutes. Every jazz solo, every drill beat, every dance challenge is not just entertainment to them. It is dialysis. They yearn for the possibility of measuring up. They study black people in a fashion that totally blinds them to appearing like a Bundy/Dahmer hybrid. It's total psychosis. Whiteness consumes blackness the way an addict huffs oxygen. Not to thrive, but to avoid dying. And we can all agree that this is not new behavior. This is a historical genome of obsessive, racist behavior, from cotton to copyrights. The theft and culture adaptation started from a space of hiding the uniqueness of black people's hair and fashion. In the 1800s, vaudeville performers blackened their faces and became millionaires. In the 1900s, racists decided that they were sick of stinking up the bars while standing still, so they moseyed on over to the juke joint and began their theft of the blues. And when that became boring, because clearly no one wants to listen to Mitch McConnell cosplaying B.B. King, they repackaged rock music. How does one unseason chicken? Well, Dwight's found a way. Gentrifying R&B with the talents of George Michael, Michael Bolton, Michael McDonald, Christina Aguilera, and John B. While they all aren't total flops, could we have lived without their contribution? Absolutely. In the 2000s, they whitewashed hip-hop, and then staged Kanye making Taylor Swift a victim. All she had to be was be Jasmine Sullivan and be good enough to release music without a scandal or some award show scheme. In the 2020s, TikTok bans black creators but rewards the mimic class with brand deals. Whiteness doesn't create culture. It loots it, drains it, and then gatekeeps it, as if its hands were dripping in blood and glitter. While we are grateful for the contributions of the artists mentioned, we must ask ourselves, why? Why do we need white artists in an industry where they are swallowed whole without some huge circus to catch everyone's attention? Yet a full export of black culture to the rest of the world, basically saying, hey look China, we have the gold over here, therefore you must do what we say. They want so badly to own black culture when they don't have the ability to contribute or create one part of it. To love black culture while fearing black people is state-sponsored schizophrenia. You can't cheer for LeBron but call Tamir Rice threatening. They want the bass of black music, but none of the memory of violence and theft encoded in the chord. They want the hips, the lips, the slang, but not the screams. Why are they obsessed? Because blackness is aliveness. It's spiritual elasticity. It's memory under pressure that sings instead of breaks. Black people are everything that everyone else can't be. Every time they imitate black culture, it's them admitting that black people are the source. Alright, racists, let's talk about your pathological addiction to stuff. The United States of Scam, where closets are full, garages are bloated, storage units multiply like mold, and every mall is a mausoleum built to worship dying consumer culture. Yes, we're dragging racist America's unhinged obsession with hoarding. Not just of objects, but of stolen land, forced labor, stolen wealth, and the destiny swap of black people's lives. The racist American psyche isn't just a sick one, it's a disease-ridden cancer, waiting to spread amongst the pure. The blueprint of colonizer psychosis starts in filth and piles of muck. Piles of soda cans, fast food wrappers, useless pottery figurines, glass angels, the most racist collectibles, and we can't forget the dated watermelon decor. It's a sickness beyond the imagination. But what actual humans may not know is how common hoarding is amongst the racist trash within the confines of this prison country. Trailer parks are like a waste management advertisement, full of useless vehicles, toys full of sun damage, patio furniture, deflated pool toys, old cigarette cartons, and we can't forget the Coors Light beer can landscaping. You don't have to be white trash with a bright, toothless smile to be a hoarder. But if you're a hoarder, chances are you're white trash. Colonizers thought that they could hide their caveman DNA just by simply classifying hoarding as a mental illness. As if caves had bedroom suits and closets. Let's not forget, hoarders don't want to be tidy and clean. They love the smell of their own feces, rich in the Nabisco diet. Racist America hoards not because it needs more things, but because it cannot feel anything. The surplus of junk is a pacifier. The target runs are rituals for their filth cults. The Amazon Prime addiction is liturgical. This isn't shopping. It's spiritual decay with a shipping label. And no, Karen, you're not tidying up. You're reenacting centuries of theft on an individual scale. One seasonal clearance at a time. That coupon isn't saving you money, it's buying you silence and time. Let's be clear. Hoarding is just looting with better PR. Strip away the manicured suburban glow, and you're left with stockpiles of panic, isolation, and weaponized possession. Hoarding is how empires fall. Just take a peek at the 2025 season finale of the United States. It floods the mind with junk to drown the memory of who it had to kill to live this American dream. And what's the dream again? A house you can't afford, if you can even afford to do a home tour, filled with things you'll never use, sitting on land that was never yours, while you fantasize about minimalism through your iPhone 47. The good thing about hoarding is it usually leads to fire or total desecration of a residence. Much like what's happening in the corporation we're living under today. We can all watch as this place crumbles like an episode of Hoarders, where a house is so riddled with filth that it must be demolished. Rest in peace, America! All right, racists, let's talk about your wannabeism. Racist America has always been obsessed with black culture. They dream of being able to wear black culture like it's a Halloween costume. They fantasize about all the hairstyles they would wear if they had the chance. They drool over the thought of normalizing seasoning. It can't be in any social setting without using the slang. They pretend to walk with purpose, trying to fake the sway. One thing that you can always count on them to do is return to their whiteness when it comes to the struggle. Racist people have a genuine belief that black culture is theirs for the taking. They constantly say some of the weirdest things when they're confronted with their swiper behavior.
Culture is for everyone to enjoy. What's wrong with sharing culture? We all take from each other's culture.
Basically gaslighting black people to just accept the theft. They walk around in Jordans like it's their trend, braiding their hair when they know goddamn well that you're not supposed to braid dog hair. They play rap music all day, even while air rapping, and committing to total cosplay of black men enjoying their music. Even driving with their seats back and buying Hellcats like their car comes with a copper skin tanning bed equipped. Just admit it. You want to be black so bad, you will try your hardest to erase who you are just to be in proximity to blackness. All the while following your parents' hatred for black people. Like the true hypocrites you've been raised to be. What racists fail to realize is that black people would love to share their culture with people who actually care about them. They would love to welcome everyone in. Only if they didn't have to attach eyes in the back of their head just to make sure the racists don't stab them in the back. What racists fail to see is that the same people who are willing to give them the world are the same people that the racists hate. Because they wish they could have a world to give. You can't be in admiration and envious at the same time. Pick a struggle. Racists have always hated braids in the classroom. Until white influencers wore them to Coachella. Racists have arrested people for wearing hoodies, then copied the silhouette for Fashion Week. Racists mocked AAVE until a white boy says no cap, and now it's brandable. You even have politicians and journalists saying, "Is that cap?" on live television. Only then is it deemed trendy. This country doesn't borrow, it abusively steals and manipulates. Then sells it back to black people with a price tag and a copyright claim. Let's be real. They don't want to understand the cultures that they copy. Because understanding would mean confronting the violence that created the distance in the first place. Understanding would mean saying, we banned your drums because we feared drumsticks and mallets going up against our heads. It would mean admitting, we made your spirituality illegal, but turned ours into a weapon. It would mean confessing, we mocked your food, your names, your sound, because we were empty. And you were whole. Appropriation is not just mimicry, it's strategy, it's camouflage. A way to erase the origin while feeding the empire. They don't just take, they replace. So be careful of loving John B., Post Malone, Jack Harlow, Justin Timberlake, Ariana Grande, Iggy Azalea, Tekashi 6ix9ine, and Mexican OT. Because their job is to infiltrate and then replace your culture with their ownership. So when appropriation is the subject matter, don't call it inspiration. Call it what it is. Weaponized envy. Black people aren't asking for credit. They have come to repossess. All right, racists, let's talk about your desire to be enslaved. Racist America values its self-worth based on the job that they obtain. They truly are obsessed with the modern ritual of depletion. Employment. They love giving their time to corporations designed to bleed the nervous system, gut the circadian rhythm, and packaged health benefits disguised as gain. They think they're working, but they're actually being metabolized. Every inch of American culture is a hallucination of merit. Americans have been indoctrinated to believe that you have to earn your place, that hard work never fails. And of course, the typical catchphrase,
Nobody owes you anything.
these are not values. These are indoctrination psyops that are geared towards destroying their self-worth. Repeating these chants in their head daily is the secret sauce to manipulating the mind's worth system. Racists can be easily convinced to devalue their own self-preservation, which causes them to be easily controlled. They believe that the paycheck is liberation, when it's just a leash made out of paperwork. And even then, it's late, it's taxed, and it's monitored. Because in this economy, honesty and integrity only flows in one direction. Towards anyone who isn't Anglo-Saxon. They'll even become surveillance bots for corporations, watching and micromanaging every non-white person on staff. It's like a parasite in a body, full of space, emptiness, and a relentless desire to earn a brown nose. They're truly under the assumption that their presence is a resource. Never mind actually being skilled on the job, as long as Richard knows that Jim is a company guy ready to snitch at all costs. Even if it costs him his windshield and tires. Employment is racist America's religion. Racist America isn't just addicted to work. It's obsessed with employment. Not because it builds anything, but because it allows companies to rank people. Employment for racist America isn't about survival. It's about sorting. Who deserves to eat? Who gets to rest? Who's worth protecting? You see, racist America doesn't understand being. It only understands doing. If you're not doing something that makes them feel secure, then you're threatening the natural order. That's why they panic when someone says, "I'm not working right now." That phrase terrifies them. Because a black person who exists outside of their labor system is a body that they can't surveil, manage, or metabolize. They don't know how to relate to anyone who isn't being supervised. They don't know what a human is outside of labor. That's why their entire culture collapses when you remove the job. You're not supposed to exist unless you're producing for them. That's why the most dangerous person in racist America is someone who refuses to clock in and still walks with dignity. The revolution is unemployment. It's time to quit your jobs. All right, racists, let's talk about you sister husbands. Let's talk about something people only whisper about. Something that's always framed as deviance, but never really as what it is. The white policy. Incest. And I mean the system that it's become. Racist America is obsessed with incest. Not just culturally, but legally, structurally, and ideologically. This country wasn't built on family values. It was built on ownership. Once the indigenous black man freed himself from the chains of the limited white man, the racists turned that ownership over to its inbred DNA. The method of ownership as a means of control just extended its hand to the bedrooms of its own flesh and blood. They turned their habit of abuse inward and created a silent culture. Like the true, limited, insecure beta males that they are. Mind you, cousin marriages are legal in over 20 states. Their love and obsession with children is the sure sign of mental erosion. The same politicians preaching about protecting children are married to women that they met and abused as minors. And they still don't think it's wrong. They have normalized the behavior. They're letting the orange president lie right to their faces about the client list, knowing damn well Donald Fuck is on that list. Even Ketamine Musk spilled that tea. When rich white families do it, they call it tradition. When rural poor folks do it, it's called dysfunction. When black people are innocently accused of it, it is instantly criminalized. Or worse, a death sentence without any substantial evidence. The point that we all misunderstand is that incest in America is not an accident. It's a way to consolidate power. It's a way to gatekeep stolen land while cycling it through the tainted inbred bloodline. It protects the abusers that are virally hidden inside of religious frameworks. It hides generational trauma inside of family silence. White women dare not say a word. They are compliant participants. Which is why so many survivors get ignored. Because incest in racist white America isn't taboo. It's legacy, it's money, it's memory you're not allowed to speak on. So no, this country doesn't hate incest. It just hates to see it exposed. Especially when the face attached to the incest is someone's grandfather, senator, or CEO. Because incest isn't a scandal in America. It's inheritance law. Alright, racists, let's rip the Kevlar off and talk about your obsession with guns. Racist American men are weak. Can't fight, they can't shoot, they can't do anything. They attach themselves to gun fetishes, pretending to be infatuated with the weapon, when really it's the obsession with using it against a defenseless person. They don't dream of being heroes. They dream of being predators. They want to victimize anything that is superior to them. A modern white American man isn't dangerous. He's scared, soft-bodied, emotionally bankrupt, a walking insurance liability whose survival kit begins and ends with a gun he can barely aim. No community, no fight, no ancient code, just suburban cosplay and Bass Pro Shops memberships. He doesn't hunt. He buys the gear, supplies, and camo, then puts all his gear in his garage so that the illusion removes the confusion when he comes home and pretends to forget that he left the garage open. He doesn't fight. He threatens black women at gas stations with an AR-15 because someone in a similar car cut him off. He doesn't protect, he patrols, like a mall cop who has to wait in line for his frozen yogurt. The racist man has a prosthetic spine, his gun. Because the truth is, if you took the gun away, if you stripped it all down, he wouldn't last one sunset in the same conditions that he shoved onto every woman or man who he deemed less of a threat. Place a slim-figured typical white man build with no gun, no uniform, no backup, in an aggressive situation, and it be just him face to face, he folds every time. These cowards need distance to feel powerful, a trigger to feel brave, a badge to feel real. Let's talk biological cowardice. White masculinity evolved not for confrontation, but for avoidance. Historically allergic to close-range contact, unless it was against children, civilians, or people already starving. Their warrior culture is less Sparta and more Best Buy Black Friday. Ever wonder why they cosplay Vikings, Navy SEALs, Spartans, or any type of superhero? Because the white American male has no indigenous warrior code, no rites of passage, no ancestral formation. Just military-industrial LARP, suburban militias, and YouTube gear reviews. They have to surround themselves with a bunch of loudmouths with their shirts tucked in to feel masculine. Take his gun away, and he's just an HOA president with no clear way to entertain himself. He would still hate his life and his entire family. But he would be less noticeable in public, because he would have his act together. Because truly he doesn't want to fight. He wants to fast forward to the part where you're already scared of him. When he can't shoot, he cries. And he does so quietly in a lifted truck with a tinted windshield. Their guns aren't a threat. They're a diagnosis. Alright, racists, let's talk about your addiction to booger sugar. Racist America lives for drugs, bathes in drugs, worships drugs, puts them in their TV, their music, their politics, their parenting, their food, air fresheners. Hell, half of them need a pill just to wake up and another one to fall asleep from all the other pills they took in between. They don't just like drugs, they structure entire subcultures around them. Xanax brunch mob, Adderall raging CEOs, college kids snorting lines off textbooks they didn't even read, high school kids showing up to track meets on fentanyl like the Metcalf boys. And meanwhile, they're clutching their pearls over the idea of someone smoking a blunt to cope with generational trauma. Please. Like, let's get real. Racist America has a pharmacy in their purse, a liquor store in their trunk, and a rehab center on speed dial. They're not fighting drugs. They're funding them, profiting off of them, and rebranding their addictions as mental health journeys while criminalizing everyone else. They'll overdose on opioids and call it a crisis. But when Black Indigenous communities self-medicate to survive the hell racist America puts them through, suddenly it's thugs and criminals and lock 'em up. That's not justice. That's narcissism with a badge. And don't even start with the fake moral outrage. This country will host a candlelight vigil for Becky's fentanyl overdose, but when Jamal is found dead in an alley, it's silence. Or worse, celebration. One less threat to society. You mean one less mirror to your reflection. Racist America is obsessed with drugs because they're obsessed with escaping themselves. The guilt, the shame, the insecurity, it's all too loud. So they pop, snort, drink, vape, shoot up, and then pretend that they're enlightened. But it's not spirituality. It's cowardice and guilt. Their lives are so boring and so uneventful that they have to latch onto substances to feel something. They're sick of eating Easy Mac and watching military movie marathons. The drugs help to pacify the loneliness of white people. They wish that there was a line dance that they could be invited to. They wish that the imaginary cookout invite was real. So they'd finally have somewhere to go. Because going to Dick's Sporting Goods on the opposite side of town just isn't giving them the fix anymore. So they pop a pill, take a snort, or jab a needle in, just to occupy the empty space that's filled by their racism. You want to end the drug problem? Start with Racist America's soul. Because no amount of opioids or therapy apps can fix a country that's high off of its own hypocrisy. All right, racists, let's talk about your obsession with unaliving humans. Racist America doesn't just kill, they require killing. It's not collateral, it's culture. Death is how they greet the world, how they discuss policy, and how they secure peace. The kill isn't a tragedy to them, it's a performance, a right. A twisted love language dressed in drone strikes, police reports, and pharmaceutical patents. They don't see a body and recoil. They study it, patent the wound, film the funeral, and copyright the trauma. This isn't violence. That word is too small. This is a full-blown aesthetic of extermination. They use police as an execution cult. The badge is not law, it's a license. The uniform is a death mask. They don't de-escalate. They stalk. They hunt. They delete. This is not a malfunction. It's the routine ritual. They use the military as the bloodlust cosplay. Every U.S. base is an altar. The freedom that they speak of is paved with explosives, black sites, and laughing next to corpses in Afghanistan. This isn't national defense. It's a religion of murder with a national anthem about murder. They use school shootings as manic therapy. No other society ritualizes child slaughter like this one. And no, it's not just the guns. It's the comfort with disposal. Their own kids are test dummies in a death cult with better branding. Let's stop pretending it's just white men. They even use white women as co-conspirators. Behind every cop that walks free is a PTA mom ready to call 911, ready to weaponize her pale skin. Behind every stand your ground murder is a Whole Foods Karen whispering, "I felt threatened," using their feelings and emotions as justification for using a gun. And the most bitter part of their obsession, they use death as content. From true crime podcasts to serial killer documentaries, death is not mourned. It's monetized. The nightmares of black children become Netflix miniseries. They don't just bury the bodies, they copyright them. Because racists don't fear death, they franchise it. And what they consider a civilization is just murder in slow motion. All right, racists, let's talk about how you love being lied to. Racist America has a propaganda fetish. Being attached to the lies isn't a side effect. It's the token to enter the club. And America doesn't lie by accident. It lies with orchestration, with choreography, with institutional funding, and Hollywood production value. Every flag wave, every repetitive storyline of films used to push the slavery agenda, and every fourth grade worksheet about pilgrims and friendship is a billion-dollar propaganda machine designed to keep the mirror from cracking. Because if this country ever told the truth for 5 consecutive seconds, racist America would dissolve. Because there would be zero lies to cling to. In Hollywood, they don't make movies to entertain. They make them to train obedience. Cowboys good, Indians bad, CIA sexy, Arabs explode. Black people die first, Latinos mow the lawn. Asians are smart but never in charge. And white tears always means the story is over. In children's textbooks, they use war crimes as the syllabus. The genocidal maniacs are called settlers. The theft is labeled as expansion. The theft and repurposing of the plantation is considered a lesson in economy. And somehow, George Washington's teeth came from the market. Which makes you wonder, why did America need his teeth? And why was he the only white man whose teeth were saved? See, propaganda is the beginning and the end to America's story. In the news media, their propaganda makes them look like lynch mobs in makeup. They don't even report the news. They produce it, create it, cast it, and sell it to the viewers as a current event. They stage outrage, inject euphemisms like Botox. Whenever the victim is black and the suspect is not, suddenly they become troubled youth. White mass shooter? He was a quiet loner under pressure fighting the chains of mental illness. Palestinian babies? They label it as an unfortunate collateral damage in a complex conflict. The American media doesn't cover true violence. It curates sympathy for the killer while assassinating the character of the victim. Propaganda in America doesn't distract from reality. It replaces it. There is no real America underneath the web of lies. The lie is the heartbeat of the white delusional supremacy. The Constitution and the national anthem is their PR. Used to mask the civil rights victories that are truly just state-sanctioned terror on the original inhabitants of this land. America doesn't want you aware. It wants you asleep. All right, racists, let's talk about your unhealthy obsession with the orange man. This isn't about Trump. This is about the racist American nervous system, wired by paranoia, flooded with humiliation, fed a diet of exceptionalism it never digested. Racist America is not mentally stable. You need to stop pretending that this is strictly political behavior. This is a psycho-spiritual addiction to control, to fantasy, to the illusion of infallibility. They don't believe Trump. They need him. They need his lies the way a klepto needs to keep stealing, to numb the scream of a reality they can't compete in without the cheat codes. Trump is the fantasy dad they never had. They crave his approval even as he spits on them and tells them to shut up. It's not politics. It's elective infantilization. They know he lies. They know he's weak. They know the Epstein logs aren't just smoke. The truth would mean that the mirror shatters, and they can't survive that. So they choose delusion over dignity. They'll burn their daughters, their pensions, their grip on reality before they admit, I was wrong about my God. The obsession with the Trump family isn't just cult behavior. It's neurological compensation. When you've been taught that you're superior but you live like a failure, you latch on to symbols of success that you didn't earn. The gold buildings, the blonde daughter, smug sons with dead eyes. They aren't respected. They're fetishized. Because they represent the only thing that the Trump base respects. Power without merit. They worship Trump because he is what they wish they were. Unqualified, unaccountable, and untouchable. This isn't about left versus right. This is about a diseased devotion to a fantasy that was always hollow. The Epstein files? They shook your cult, not because they proved guilt, but because they exposed your desperation. You were never the heroes. You were never the rebels. You were always a believer in a lie that required someone else's silence. Now that it's cracking, you'd rather implode than evolve. That's not ideology, that's a sickness. And your God is dying. Do you go with him? Or do you finally feel the pain that you've outsourced for generations?